As a leader in the practice of data science, you can scale your data, you can scale your algorithms, you can scale your team, but are you scaling you? What is leadership? How are you amplifying your capabilities to produce more significant impact than what can be achieved as an individual? Are you influencing, supervising, directing, and inspiring projects and people around you? Hello, my name is Yue Kathy Chang, co-author of Become a Leader in Data Science, many publications. I built and led teams at Silicon Valley Data Science, where I my team, and I parachuted into companies to address challenging and meaningful data needs. I have worked with leaders of centralized and distributed data teams at companies large and small, all betting the next product differentiation on data. Whether it's addressing data architecture inadequacies at a large data asset management firm, or preparing for Fortune 50 global consumer packaged goods company for its biggest shopping day of the year, I see a distinct need for data science leaders as companies become data-centric. Welcome. I will be moderating Ask Dr. Chong, Become a Leader in Data Science, Part 2. Ask Dr. Chong is a series where Dr. Jika Chong takes audience questions on situations and challenges encountered when taking on a leadership role in data science. In this session, we'll be talking about a specific case. Dr. Chong has personally mentored and promoted many data science leaders in the US and in China, in public and private companies. As an executive, he's built and grown multiple high-performing data teams. Dr. Chong was part of the executive team that took Eren Digital Limited public on New York Stock Exchange. He also expanded and led the data team as the chief data scientist at Acorns, designed and executed a project predicting ventures investment risks at Silver Lake. And recently, he led the hiring marketplace data science team at LinkedIn, serving a business line with $4 billion a year in revenue. Dr. Chong, why don't we share the reasons behind authoring this book?
Yes, this is an exciting time for data scientists and the innovative data companies or technology companies that hires them. Mainly because producing industry-leading data-driven innovation is currently within reach of many quite nimbly sized organizations. What we see is that 95% of the companies with data science teams have teams of fewer than 10 members. And many data leaders are eager to make great impact and take on more responsibilities and develop themselves into executive leaders. But the directions and milestones are not so clear. Some large companies like Google and LinkedIn has leadership programs that address this challenge internally and for some specific stage of career development of data science leaders. But what about the rest of us? This is the main reason for writing this book. The book is intended to help you understand your existing strengths and to assess your developmental opportunities for the next stage of your career. It also gives you a window into the concerns of your managers and your managers' managers, so you can better understand where they might be coming from. The book is in Manning's early access program, where some chapters are already available, and more chapters are coming online.
In chapter 1 of the book, we included a series of case studies highlighting common challenges we have observed in our experience. The case studies span from early career data scientists who recently entered this exciting field, to mid-stage people who are beginning to lead teams, to maturing leaders who head up functions and hold executive roles. Let's take a closer look at one of them.
Yeah, why don't we take a look at the case of Audra, a data science manager?
Sure. Audra has been a data science leader at a startup managing both projects and a team of 4 data scientists for almost 2 years. She's always been keen to develop her career. When a management opportunity came up in a larger company in the same industry, with the prospect of managing a project of expanding scope and a larger team, she jumped to apply. So she started in the interview process quite confident. She passes the technical tests.
She has a solid industry knowledge and she's likable, and she's done well in her current role. However, after 3 rounds of interviews with the hiring manager, the team, and the company executives, she didn't stand out to be the best candidate, and ultimately she was not extended an offer. As the interviewing company does not provide detailed feedback, her case is assumed to be not a fit, or in many cases, not a culture fit. Audra is disappointed and she's baffled. She thought through how she conveyed her passion for developing her career and what she could have done differently, but did not come up with anything significant. What does culture fit mean anyway? How can she continue to develop herself into a leader in pursuit of an impactful career if there's no feedback?
Yes, this is a pretty representative case, and I've seen many candidates fall into this trap. Um, and it's a quite common situation, actually.
Oh, well, the challenge here is Audra is disappointed and baffled after not getting an offer for a position that she really believes she's highly qualified for. It turns out that during her interviews, 2 interviewers noticed that she mostly focused on her own career path and development and did not speak much at all about the team she led. So, when asked if she had a succession plan for her managerial role, she didn't have any.
Yes, and as a manager, one primary responsibility is to empower the team members to do the best work of their career. The other is taking care of her team and the company whenever possible. So, in chapter 5 of the book, we discuss the ethical standard of practice for managers to focus on mentoring and growing the team. What could be a helpful process for the individual in this case? Well, what's important is to first build the confidence of the individual, in this case, Audra, highlight the personal path, and help them to leverage not just themselves, but the organization around them, and have a clear roadmap for how they can improve. So, how do you get the most out of checking out a case? Well, what you can potentially do is see how you measure up to the particular person, in this case, Audra's strengths. See if you have similar opportunities for new practices that you can adopt. And if you have alternative solutions that could work even better, see if you have similar support in your organization. And see if you can start to line up your own roadmap to incorporate some of these new practices.
Well, let's take a closer look at Audra's strengths first.
Yes. So, for Audra's leadership strengths, is mainly in her technical abilities and her knowledge of the industry. We can summarize them in potentially these 3 main points. She's good at managing for consistency across the different projects and models that her team works with. She can clarify the business context of those opportunities so that her team stays aligned with the company objectives. And she's also really good at assessing project ROI for prioritization, even in cases where some of the data is missing. So let's look into these particular areas of strengths. You can follow along and see if you also have those strengths.
Let's see if there's any resonance.
Absolutely. So we mentioned earlier that Audra is technically strong, and she's really articulate and has witnessed a particular scenario play out in many of the teams she has been involved with. The data science team often start out working through proof of concept projects, successfully completing them, and claiming many quick wins. But she observed that gradually progress slows to a crawl. You may have experienced similar challenges before. You may observe that innovations in one part of the system has been repeatedly implemented in other parts of the system from scratch, often with slight variations, and the different variants of the deployment produce incoherent insights, confusing the business decision makers and also hurting trust in the data science results. These are signs of accumulating tech debt in data science. And we address some of these concerns in section 4.1.2 in the book. And you can see on the top right corner, we highlight which section you can find more details about these scenarios. So Audra is experienced in this area, and she has adopted the best practice of asking really important questions about the organization and how it works. These are 4 areas that she keeps asking herself when she encounters these scenarios. For example, do you have a consistent A/B test framework to assess the different types of incremental improvements quickly? Do you have an easy to maintain dashboard and reporting infrastructure to keep the insights consistent? Do you have a shared data enrichment platform such that improvements can quickly be assessed and deployed to production models? And do you have standard metrics, metric pipelines, such that new metrics can be quickly deployed to many different product lines? So Audra has seen the danger of many of these scenarios where there are tech debts accumulating, and is experienced on how to fix them. So this is the first piece of Audra's strength. Now, in the second piece, she not only can detect tech debt issues, she's also good at aligning the team to the strategic direction of the company. She's got an acute sense of technical direction. Before executing a project, she takes time to understand how the data science projects are strategically positioned in the organization. Is it a product or a feature that she's working on? What's the hypothesis behind the project that the particular project is looking to validate? So clarifying the business context for the team involves first interpreting the organizational vision and mission. So what's the vision and mission? Vision is the desired future position of an organization. It's the dream, it's a team's true north, where the primary objective is to inspire and create a shared sense of purpose throughout the company. And the mission defines a company's business, its objectives, and its approach to reaching those objectives. And it is the overarching objective of the organization that should be measurable, achievable, and ideally inspirational. And it should not be used synonymously with a vision statement because it speaks to the practical process of getting to that vision. So with vision and mission together, that guide companies when companies grow beyond a certain size. And chapter 2.3.1 speaks to this particular area. For setting the company vision and mission with data science as an important contributor, chapter 8, section 8.2.1 discusses how an executive would lead data science and introduce data science capabilities in the vision and mission of a company. For Audra, right, in the process of clarifying the context of the opportunities, she's really effective in checking for consistency. So she uses this particular technique to make sure that her projects are valuable. That the project is important, such that if it's not done, then there could be a huge negative consequence for the company. The project should be useful, such that it progresses the company along its mission towards its vision. And the project should be worthwhile, such that it produces good return on investment at low risk. So speaking about return on investment, let's look at the third area where it's important for Audra. It's one of Audra's strengths. So as a data science manager, Audra has to assess if the project are worthwhile by calculating their return on investment. But what do we do? What are the components of the ROI calculation? And what do we do if some of those components are missing? In practice, this scenario often happens, as components of data that go into this ROI calculation can take time to manifest. For example, the churn component in lifetime value analysis for subscription customers can take months to review. Delinquency rates for borrowers to estimate the profit margin for financial loan can take quarters to understand and potentially recover. So missing input is challenging, especially for data scientists, as intelligent systems we create often requires complete input for predicting the output. So when inputs are missing, our first instinct is to work on figuring out what the input should be. In contrast, our partners in business, especially business executives, frequently are forced to make business decisions in situations with missing information. So this is the key difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is the ability to make good decisions with complete information. Wisdom is the ability to make good decisions even in place with incomplete information. So how do we apply wisdom in producing ROI calculations with missing information? Let's see what would Audra do. Okay. So first of all, ROI is just one of many factors used in prioritizing project. And ROI can be usually computed as the reach of a data science feature times the impact that it has, the population that it covers, divide by the amount of effort. And the unit here is money over money, right? So there are other factors to consider for prioritization, project innovativeness, the confidence of success, as well as alignment with data strategy. And we discuss many of these contexts in section 2.2.1 in the book. In many cases, as long as the order of magnitude of ROI is correct, it should be informative enough to stack rank the projects from go or no-go business decisions. So in this case, reach can be estimated with a pretty good understanding of the user segments that you can calculate ahead of time. Efforts are possible to estimate with experience of past project, with cost estimates from the number of dollars per data science person effort week, right? So you can estimate how much the project is likely to cost. Well, the impact is the hardest to estimate, because this often corresponds to the expected lift or improvement for the target customer of the project. And the magnitude could be higher or low, or higher for a narrowly defined audience, or more diluted for a broader audience. And it's hard to estimate how much improvement is achievable before the project is complete. So experience from a similar project or similar context could help, but often with the absence of experience from a similar project, what you can do is to reverse the question. To what magnitude of improvement is required to make a project worthwhile? So given the leverage provided by the customer reach, say if the lift is 1%, would that provide a compelling ROI or a compelling return for the amount of investment for a project like that? Or if the lift is 10% or 50%, will that would that be good enough for the amount of effort that could be expended for a particular project? So it's with this perspective, we can evaluate if the impact required makes a project worthwhile, right? So in the slide, we provided two examples of a case where we're actually looking at the project, its reach, its impact, and the upside for the numerator, and then estimating the amount of effort that's required in the denominator, so that we can even add in an amount of uncertainty such that we can have a range of ROI for a potential project. So with this, these are the leadership strengths that Audra has. Do you have some of the similar strengths?
Well, in summary, Audra is pretty effective in the areas that she has observed her manager perform when she was a data scientist, as an individual contributor, if you will. For the managerial responsibilities, she's not observed while as an individual contributor. Those are the opportunities, those are the areas where opportunities for new practices exist.
Yes.
So to focus on the team rather than just her own career development, there are a few top areas of growth for Audra. One is growing team with coaching, mentoring, and advising. Second is contribute to and reciprocate on broader management duties. And three is manage the maker's schedule versus the manager's schedule.
Yes. So let's go into the specifics.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, growing a data science team is not just about hiring more data scientists, but increasing the capacity for your existing team members to make a more significant impact on your organization. Nurturing the capabilities of your current team members to further their career development takes time, but you will be able to build some lifetime friendships and valuable professional networks that are mutually beneficial. So, what might be some of the challenges with nurturing team members?
Yes. There are many challenges, but one challenge with nurturing team member is to grow the team members' impact so that the whole team's impact is increased. So a more detailed nurturing style may be useful for junior team members, but there's no single effective approach because while the same approach could make the same nurturing style, detailed nurturing style for junior team members may make senior members feel micromanaged. And some senior team members may prefer a more hands-off approach, while the same approach may leave some junior members feel neglected. So if every team member is at a different stage in their professional career, would that mean they all require a different nurturing style? That would be pretty overwhelming, even for managers with small teams. But fortunately, if you begin to manage more team members, patterns emerge. So let's discern three specific types of approaches to take care of the team members and their career development concerns. So they're coaching, mentoring, and advising. So for coaching is the process of unlocking a team member's potential to maximize their performance. This is a custom tailored development process in a formal one on one setting. A coach observes and produces feedback with a focus on the process of asking questions. Through these questions, a good coach can facilitate a team member to clarify goals, focus on what needs to be done, and discover the best strategy for achieving those goals. And to coach, Audra first needs to create a safe and judgment free space for a team member to go on a process of self discovery and growth. Audra should then demonstrate the genuine care for her team members' well being and should be sensitive to their potential fear of failure. That's for coaching. What would she do when she's mentoring? Well, mentoring first is the process of imparting wisdom and shared knowledge with a less experienced colleague. For mentoring to work out, Audra needs to start with an authentic relationship and break away from the typical manager employee structure to focus on the team member's career growth. So, for mentoring to work effectively, the topics should expand beyond coaching for goals, focus, and processes and strategies. Right? It should include the mastery of capabilities and the practices of virtues. Many of those are described in this book. And while the mentorship for capability can immediately benefit execution, mentorship in virtues can often have a longer lasting impact on your team member's character. To advising. Well, advising is the process of providing information and directions. So as an advisor, you should have direct experience and deep knowledge in achieving your team members' goals. And you can offer value by giving specific feedback about specific questions. So for advising to work well, Audra must be aware of her team members' strengths and weaknesses and position them in projects that highlight their strengths and offer help for dealing with their weaknesses. So when should you use each of these approaches? Well, between coaching, mentoring, and advising, the three approaches have many similarities. To do any of them well, you'll need to start with a safe, authentic, mutually respectful relationship with your team members. There are also three key differences between coaching, mentoring, and advising. First, so they're summarized in this table. First is how much of you are you bringing into the relationship? Coaching focuses on observing and providing feedback for the team members, self-discovery and growth. Compared to mentoring, mentoring is focused on sharing your past experience as a mentor to help the team member build skills. Advising, though, is focusing on how you can provide information and direction to solve the team member's specific challenge. So we show that with the number of stars in the table, that advising would require much more of you and your experience and your attention. Second area is how much prior expertise do you need for the challenge at hand? For coaching, you don't need much prior experience in the challenge at hand. Experience in the general process of solving similar problems would be enough to ask intelligent questions to cultivate some greater clarity for your team members. For mentoring, you need some related prior experience to highlight your team members' blind spots for pitfalls in the path to success. And for advising, you'll need direct experience to give specific feedback about the team member's specific challenge. And then also these different ways of helping your team members also differing the area of what result to drive. So with coaching, you're there to provide support and accountability. And when mentoring, you're there to endorse your team members' vision for their ideal self and to guide them to develop missing capabilities and virtues on their road to become a more successful and effective data scientist. When advising, you're helping your team members understand the complexity of the specific problems at hand and to make more informed decisions. And don't forget, you're also there to reduce their anxiety and confusion, to instill calm and confidence so that your team members can take more effective actions in their projects. So overall, for long-term reach and impact, coaching, you're encouraging introspection and teaching ways to for your team members to self-coach in new situations. With mentors, the mentor is your mentee is depending on you to point out a path and highlight pitfalls. With advising, you're already providing the specific solutions for the task at hand. So the team member would be still dependent on you in the long term. So this is the first area. With these fundamental differences, you can begin to see how to distinguish situations for coaching, mentoring, and advising. And there are different situations, of course. For senior members working on innovative projects with high likelihood of success, coaching is probably good enough. With senior members taking on challenging projects with increased risk of failure, you may need to mentor them. And with junior members working through specific challenges where you have the expert knowledge, so you can advise them to understand the problem's complexity and better make informed decisions. So with these practices, Audra can flexibly switch between these three modes of nurturing to grow her team members, to provide greater impact for the organization. And when you can use them appropriately, you can also empower your team members to perform the best work of their career.
Wow, that's quite a bit of differentiation amongst the three concepts. So now let's take a look at the second area of opportunity: contribute to and reciprocate on broader management duties. All these managerial duty dimensions look pretty overwhelming.
Yes. And in many companies, when promoting people to managers, they're expecting them to just learn on the job. And few companies actually clearly specifies the breadth of roles and responsibilities for people manager. And for technical leadership, the project planning responsibilities that Audra has seen and experienced as an individual contributor, uh, those are the areas she excelled in, like what we discussed. But for many other areas, she still needs quite a bit of development. So, as a member of the organization and organization's management team, you can also you can also be called upon to contribute to the broader organizational duties. And many of these include people-related leadership matters as well as technology-related matters. So, when you have ambitions to take on greater responsibilities to create to produce a greater significant impact. Um, these duties shed light on a broad range of concerns across many parts of the organization. It's actually good preparation for you to be promoted. Um, and it's a very fertile ground for training to practice leadership. Now, what are some of the details? We highlighted some areas. Now, it's a lot more than just those titles, right? So there are many areas, a whole list of responsibilities for a manager. So it's overwhelming, and especially if you've been recently promoted to a team leadership position, and has not been formally trained to be a manager. Don't worry, this book can guide you to in going to into data science management. And there may also, may also be some cultural differences and nuances within your particular organization and function. But you can you just like you can use coaching, mentoring, and advising for your team members, you can also seek out coaches, mentors, and advisors in your organization to help you develop a deeper understanding of the cultural nuances in your organization and the specific leadership responsibilities that you're called upon to do.
So this is just to make a distinction. This is more than a book on management. It's about a book on leadership. So management is only part of it.
Yes, absolutely. And well, you can seek out mentorship from your manager, right? He or she doesn't have to be your only mentor. And many manager challenges are common across technical teams. So you can look for other well-run teams in your company or organization, or even in the same industry to seek mentorship and advice. And you can read more about these responsibilities and getting support from partner organizations in section 5.1.3 of the book.
Now we come to the third area of opportunity for new practices for Audra, and that is managing the maker's schedule versus the manager's schedule. Andy Grove has said that the output of a manager is the output of his organization, in today's world, her organization as well, and the output of neighboring organization under his or her influence.
Yeah.
So how could Audra protect her team's output?
Yes, and that's a common challenge, right? Through our data scientist organizations, we have a lot of different partners in the company. So as a manager, right, your team members, business partners, your manager, and other executives all demand your time and attention. And as a manager, your days are often cut up into 30-minute time slots that you're rushing from meeting to meeting. And at the end of many weeks, you may feel drained with little time to reflect and focus on your project and producing accomplishment that you would like to call your own. So if you feel this way, you're not alone. And transitioning from an individual contributor in data science to a management position can be hard, and often overwhelming. Understanding the difference between a maker schedule and a manager schedule can help you better understand and adjust to your new situation. So, the concept of the maker schedule versus the manager schedule was first popularized by Paul Graham, the legendary co founder of Y Combinator startup accelerator. And in his post in 2009, he wrote, "The most powerful people are on manager's schedule. It's a schedule of command, but there are many other ways of using time that's common among people who make things, like programmers and writers and data scientists. Um, they generally prefer to use time in units of half a day at least, because you just can't write a program in units of an hour. That's barely enough time to get started. So we often speak of these situations as the flow, right? We may have all the experience. We may have experience. We may have all experienced a productive full day of data analysis and coding in the maker schedule as data scientists. When we're on the project, it takes time to internalize the business requirements and get a mental image on the problem space and collect and interpret the available data so that we can strategize how to build the right architecture and execute the next steps. So it may take up to 30 minutes to 2 hours to focus efforts to get into this flow, which is a psychologically recognized state of mind that's characterized by a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and employment in the process and
Enjoyment.
enjoyment, yes, in the process of the activity. So, what happens when there is a meeting scheduled in the middle of that? So, Paul Graham compares this a meeting in the middle of a day as to like a software program throwing an exception. So, it doesn't merely switch you from one task to another, it changes the whole mode in which you work. And a meeting commonly blows out at least half a day. And by breaking up a morning or an afternoon, um, and in addition to all this, there's a cascading effect. Because if I know an afternoon is going to be broken up, I'm probably less focused and ambitious in the morning. So, when managing a team, you're responsible to protect the output of your team. And one important aspect is to create an environment for your team to get into the flow. And there are 6 specific situations you can keep an eye on for your team and yourself. And they're listed here, right? For example, for stand up scheduling, many agile software development processes have daily stand ups. It's an opportunity for the team to get informed, get connected, and calibrate on ongoing projects. For data science team that has adopted this agile software development process, one challenge is choosing the time of day the team would be huddling for 5 to 10 minutes without breaking their flow. And some teams choose to do it the first thing in the morning before most of the teams start the day at like 9:30 or 10 a.m. However, when your team grows, some members may have schedules that starts much earlier in the workday. And the stand up at 9:30 or 10 a.m. breaks the morning into two. Forcing everyone to start the workday earlier is not practical for many engineering schedules, so that you can start the stand up, say, at 8 or 9. Um, so, scheduling a stand up at the end of the workday is also an option, but some team members may have family obligations, like picking up their kids from school. So, they may need to leave at different times in the workday. We found scheduling a 5 to 10 minutes stand up between 11:30 to 12 noon, right before lunch, can be a compromise. All team members are present in the middle of the day, and lunches are a natural break for most of the scientists. And as a side feature, the eagerness to go to lunch can keep the stand ups short and concise. And the only conflict is when team members may have an occasional lunch appointment, which can be managed on a case by case basis.
And in today's world, you also have cross time zone activities,
Absolutely.
and that's another consideration as well.
Yes, yes. So that's the area of stand up scheduling. There are many other areas, such as like one-on-one scheduling. And maybe I'll go into one or two more, and you can read about the rest in section 5.3.1. So for one-on-one scheduling, you may have experienced it, that your manager schedules a one-on-one with you, and then at the last minute, they cancel it. And you may spend the morning thinking about the meeting at the end of at the back of your mind while working, and now your focus for the entire day is affected for nothing. So from a manager perspective, there are many demands on their time. And when this team discussions on this unexpectedly drag on, or when executives ask for something urgent, out of all the meetings in the calendar, one-on-one seems to be the least disruptive one to push off for another day. But with respect for your team members' maker schedule, you should allow time for them to get into the flow and try to make these one-on-ones as scheduled. And if not possible, if it's not possible to make one of them, make every effort to reschedule at least 24 hours ahead of time, especially if it's something that you can anticipate, like uh, a really busy schedule or calendar at the end of the quarter, or that you have some expected reviews and roadmaps, obligations across teams. And for team discussions before the team member one-on-one, try to anticipate the amount of time those discussions would require and schedule accordingly so you can always complete a meeting early and return some time to the attendees. And you discover when you sincerely respect your team members' flow, even in the scheduling of your one-on-ones, your team members will notice and appreciate your actions. So with that, let's move on to the other areas.
Excellent. Well, let's look at what Audra can leverage from across the organization as well. So that's in addition to herself and her capabilities.
Yes.
Let's do that.
So as a manager, Audra can spend more time coaching and advising her team to increase the capacity of existing team members to make more significant impact for their organization. And she can also ask the team members to be able to share their learning with each other to build up the institutional knowledge within her team. And these learnings can include the data sources they examine, the tools they use, the assumptions they make, and the methodologies they have developed during the process of working on data science projects. So let's expand a little bit on what each of these are. So for data sources, right, many data science projects are defining new tracking capabilities to produce new data sources and exploring new third-party incoming data sources and examine these new data fields in existing data sources or enriching the data sources with or from third-party data. So with all this capabilities, there's a lot of learning that can be shared across the different projects between team members. If Audra can facilitate this process of sharing, that could be really effective. And it's not just the data side, right? There is also the tools used. So a data science project may touch on many tools, such as real-time data pipelines, feature extraction packages, new model deployment paths, or new analysis techniques. And when these learning can be shared, it can also improve the productivity on other projects within the team. There's also the assumptions made. And you may be surprised that even some simple looking data science project can have pretty complex, can be pretty complex that requires crude assumptions to be made on the path to producing results. But being able to make some sensible assumptions quickly is actually a key capability for good and nimble business decision making. And appropriately making those assumptions are valuable tools that can be shared and reused. And this involves really deeply understanding the business context so that suitable assumptions are made. And of course, there are the methodologies that's developed. So as team members work on data science projects, they may develop methodologies and best practices that the team members can leverage in future projects. And these are also valuable to capture. So when Audra can think beyond her own career growth to focus more on how she's enabling her team to grow together, she would have matured as a manager.
So Audra can also has an opportunity to work better with her manager as well. So let's talk a bit about that, please.
So with her manager, she can work more closely to map out and align her growth path with a specific set of goals to build a more complete set of management virtues. And this, we discussed this in chapter 6.2.2. And for manager level execution responsibilities, so for director level execution responsibilities, there is a portion that involved with mapping out the career ladders for the various functions, including the career ladder for managers like Audra. And the goals can come from a subset of the 6 areas we list in the chapter 4 and 5 of this book, now online with me, and with a focus on building the team identity and increasing the team's impact. Audra can align with her manager on also protecting the data science focus and the amount of flow time that the team gets, and incorporate these no meeting half days and mentor and get mentorship on much broader management duties for Audra. And Audra's coordination with her manager can allow her to set these career development quarterly goals and OKRs to build a more effective data science team for the company.
OKRs are?
OKRs, the objective key results.
Yes. Excellent. So now let's take a look at a roadmap for Audra to incorporate these new practices. Throughout the process of recognizing her strength and identifying opportunities, Audra becomes more ready to acknowledge her own finiteness as an individual human being to discover limitations relative to strength in gaining clarity to the path forward. We recommend 2 processes for next steps. With leadership strength and potential development areas identified, Audra can experiment with a simple choose, practice, and review process, CPR for short. And timing-wise, this can be done with a 2-week check-in period. So if you will, it could be considered as a sprint. So she can now self-coach also with this mechanism GROW, G-R-O-W. So let's look at each one of these. Now, this process helps internalize and practices the capabilities and virtues. So can we go to the next one? Thank you. So for choose, she would want to select 1 to 2 items from this table or from the table that she can work on. As an example, she may choose mentor team members on career goals. Or let's talk about in the context of you. So as an audience member. So you may choose to mentor a team members on career goals. For practice, for each project you're involved in, practice the skill you have chosen to work on. If you have chosen to better understand the company vision and mission, you may want to review them on your company's website, clarify the technical directions of your projects, and find examples where projects align well or do not align well with the company vision and mission. And for review, you want to set up with a meeting with yourself in a couple of weeks to check in and to come back to this section of the book to assess if you have now gained a better understanding or command of the skill. You can choose to take another sprint to develop further on that skill or move on to the next CPR cycle. For your self-review, you can use a project-based skill improvement template to help you structure your actions over the 2-week sprints. Now, there's an example that I asked Dr. Chung to talk about in a little more detail.
Yes, actually, this is a great time. We're at the end of the year. And if you're in this situation where you're looking to build a more powerful team in the new year, it's a great time to be able to start put together a particular task for yourself to mentor team members on career growth. And you can set a deadline, say for yourself, say January 10th, and you'll be speaking to your team, taking advantage of the existing weekly one-on-ones. And at the end of the 2 weeks, you can review your progress in mentoring your team member on career growth by asking yourself the questions: do I know my team members' long-term career plans? And can I incorporate them into the strategic project goals?
So just pause on this for a second and you can take a look at that in the box.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, next, please. Excellent. So now, as an example, for the self-coaching with Grow, as an example, if you decide to focus on the goal of building a more motivated or capable team, your specific goal could be align team members' career goals into your team's strategic projects. Next, let's check in on reality. What actions have you taken so far? Have you created a safe, judgment-free space and started an authentic relationship with your team members? This is talked more about in Chapter 5, Section 5.1.1. And what is the alignment you see between your team members' passion and available opportunities? What's getting in the way? And there's also examination into obstacles, options, where you need to ask some questions. And finally, let's take a look at the way forward. What options will you choose? When will you start each action? What will you commit to doing? Just turning your articulator on to identify the strengths and gaps of the team members could be a really good start. You can schedule a review and check in that at a later date. So let's now take another look at how this aligns with our book. I know this is an eye chart again, and it's not meant to be read here for word. At a high level, we organize the book in 4 main parts or stages. Audra's role is that of a team manager stage, and in each stage, there are 2 main parts: the hard skills or capabilities, and the soft psychosocial skills or virtues. Capabilities are further discussed in TEE. So that's technology, execution, and expert knowledge. And technology, again, is the tools and frameworks for you to lead more effectively, which are used in framing the problem, understanding the data characteristics, innovating in feature engineering, driving clarity in modeling strategies, and setting expectations for success. Execution, the practices for you to specify projects from vague requirements, prioritize and plan projects while balancing difficult trade-offs. Expert knowledge is the domain knowledge for you to clarify project alignment to organizational vision and mission, account for data source nuances, and navigate structural challenges in the organization. And virtues are further discussed in ERA. That's ethics, rigor, and attitude. Ethics is standard of conduct at work that enable you to avoid unnecessary and self-inflicted breakdowns. There are many aspects of work ethics for data scientists, including data use, project execution, and teamwork. Rigor is a craftsmanship that generates trust in the results data scientists produce. Rigorous results are repeatable, testable, and discoverable. And rigorous work products can become solid foundations for creating enterprise value. Now, attitude. That's the moods with which you approach workplace situations. With positivity and tenacity to work through failures, data scientists should be curious and collaborative team members or team players. We should also respect the diverse perspectives in lateral collaborations. Let's orient this in the CV matrix. Recognize leadership strength, opportunities for new practices, leverage the organization, and line up a roadmap to incorporate new practices. Now, Audra can use this book to guide her path. She can coach, mentor, and advise to increase the capacity of her existing team members to make a more significant impact on her organization. And she can also do many more things. So Jika talked about this. Dr. Chung, talk more about this.
Yeah. So we see on the slides that there is a strengths, opportunities, and leverages that is summarized there. And Kathy just talked about the uh, strengths, right, in managing for consistency, clarify the business context, and being able to assess ROI. But really, it's the opportunities that Audra can take on to coach, mentor, and advise, but also contribute to the broader duties of the company from a manager perspective, as well as being conscious and appreciative of the makers versus the manager's schedule. And we also talked about leveraging the bus for the career ladder and leveraging the team to institutionalize learning from each other better.
And if I may just point out, when we talk about career ladder, it's not necessarily a vertical ladder. It could very well be a career lattice where there's movements both horizontal and vertical.
Yes.
So let's take a look at questions that might have come in while we are speaking. We have a few minutes, and well, how do I? Here's something that may be interesting. How do I know if I'd be better off as a data science manager or tech lead?
That's a good question. So actually, both tech lead and data science managers are responsible for producing business impact. And the key distinction is that the tech lead leads project, whereas the data science managers leads project as well as nurture people, right? And tech lead has to influence peers. Managers gets to inspire team members and also to grow them professionally. So if you have been inspired by your manager and would like to do the same, then you can look to become a data science manager so you can actually empower more people's career in data science. I've also often heard of it compared to, well, for a data science tech lead, you're responsible for particular chores in the house, and for data science managers, you're responsible for raising the kids.
Okay, well that's interesting. So I have this question I've heard before, and this comes from the distributed versus centralized data science organizations. So if a data scientist works in a team where, or if the data science people are embedded here and there in the company, and they each report to a manager who's just a regular manager, not necessarily specifically a data science manager, and the manager manages everyone from from engineers to product person to data scientist. Can I still use this book to advance my career?
Yes, that's a great question. So it really comes down to, what is a leader in data science? The short answer is yes. In fact, this book has many components that is specifically tailored to people in that situation, where you're in an embedded team and reporting to someone who's not a data scientist. The challenging those roles are pretty common. That your manager may not understand all the requirements or the ways to evaluate you as a data scientist. So components of this book can allow you to form a better narrative in what are your strengths as a data scientist and what are the virtues that data scientists hold as part of their profession. And that narrative can be used to help you communicate to your peers and potentially your manager who is not a data scientist so that they can have some place to point to and some narrative to go with so that come time for them to evaluate your progress and evaluate your contribution, they may have a set of uh, smart goals, right? Specific, measurable goals for them to use at that time. So that's for your managers. And for you, well, it's often hard without a role model near you to be able to develop and evolve your data science skills. And this book can be there to provide references and examples for you to understand what does it mean to be performing at a tech lead level, a manager level, and even like for data scientists who are looking to go in the tech ladder, in the individual contributor ladder or lattice, to look at how they can produce better impact or larger impact to the organization. They can look at the technology concerns for managers and directors to see how staff data scientists and principal data scientists in organizations are expected to be able to do, such as looking at how to um, uh, establish common infrastructures between projects, as well as establishing technology roadmaps for the organization.
Excellent. Well, I've also seen that many companies are starting to do this hybrid model where they have a center of excellence for data science, where they have a leader, and then everyone who's a data scientist would be able to leverage what's the learning from the central organization and take it back to their individual business units where they are reporting to the managers that manage everyone from engineers to product to data scientists. So um, thank you very much for tuning in, and we are looking forward to doing another episode in January, probably mid-January. We'll announce that very shortly. If you have a question, feel free to tweet us. Our Twitter account handles are on the page, and have an excellent, safe, and healthy holiday, everyone. Thank you, and we will see you next time.